Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina, I'm the host here. My guest today is a lady I've been trying to get for a few months now on my channel, and I'm so happy you're finally here. Belinda Reid, the owner of the Knitting Hotel. Well, let me tell you how I discovered you. So I discovered you through a post by Sarah Hussein, whose climate wrap I've been knitting
Fabulous.
last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, like this is what dreams are made of. The Knitting Hotel, like how brilliant. Tell me like about the idea of it. Like how did you decide to do it?
Oh my goodness. Arena, how long have you got? Okay, so it's a long story how I got here.
That's
So
totally
I'll
fine.
just tell you how I got here. Okay. So I'm going to go back. I'm not to when I was born, but I'm going to go
We'll
back to when
get
I
to
was
that as
little.
well, by the way, because you have an
Okay, so
interesting story.
okay, okay. Long story. I was born in Africa, but that's another story. But I was born in Africa, and my father was professor of English in East Africa, the university. Started the university, regardless of that. We came to the UK, but my mother, who was an incredible designer, and she went to the Royal College of Art and did a master's in knitted textiles. And she was a conceptual artist and did kind of really conceptual pieces, odd kind of strange shapes, knitting machine stuff made out of fishing wire, and just beautiful, really kind of catwalky, odd, peculiar things. And so when I was 16, she was doing her master's, and she said to me, she would throw me knitting needles, and so I was 16, and said, I'm going to show you how to knit because I want you to knit a box for my 8-foot clown. Okay. So I said, okay. It was like a grotesque clown with a big kind of red nose and peculiar eyes. I must send you a picture. I'll send you a picture. Okay. Ooh, funny, odd, strange thing with great big legs. So I knitted this box under duress. Okay. I thought a prerequisite of an older generation or peculiar arty people or knitting. And just learned how she told me how to cast on, how to cast off, how to knit and how to purl. That was it. That's all I knew. Yeah. And so then did that for a few months while my mother was doing her course and did odd little bits, and then didn't actually pick up the needles again till 2010 when I was 40. Gosh, I'm 58 now, so my goodness. Okay, 2010, 13 years ago. And so picked up the needles, and it was just by chance that somebody in my road was running a knitting group from her house and said anyone in the street could come. And her daughter was just about to go and be a missionary in Uganda, which is where I was born.
Right.
And would anyone like to come and do some knitting? I thought, hey, this is like a match made in heaven. This is incredible. So I rocked up and said the first thing that I wanted to knit would be an Aran coat, because I thought, yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? Like, okay. And they said, do you know how to knit? I said, yeah. And they looked at me flabbergasted and said, are you sure you're going to be doing this? I said, listen, there's YouTube. There are you people. You can show me. It's stitches forward, stitches back, holding on. Well, I can do this. I'm going to show you. 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 The first thing I ever knitted. Okay, wait. Okay, the first thing I ever knitted. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it on. I'll put it on. Okay, I'm going to show you. Was this coat?
You're my
So
absolute hero. I love it.
So this is my first thing that I knitted, and it was too big, so I didn't know what to do. So I just want to show you this. So I didn't know about steeking. I didn't know what that was. So I just cut it with scissors to make it smaller. Just cut a whole load of. Okay, so and just loved it. Just thought, oh my gosh, I want to do this more. The idea of fibre in my hands, it just gave me such joy. I just loved it, and from then on started started making up things, okay, just making up my own designs, which seems a little bit strange, but I've never actually knitted ever anyone else's design ever, except for the ones that I've made up on myself. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be great fun. I'm going to make up a few designs myself. And then I used to sing in a choir with the woman who ran this knitting group. And in the car, backwards and forwards, while we were going to the choir, she said to me, why don't we put on a knitting show? Because I worked in music, I have a master's in theatre. So in looking at the representation of women's bodies on stage, that's what I did for my master's, from a kind of feminist perspective. Right. So she said, listen, why don't we put on a show? You can do theatre, we can do knitting, we can have a meld of the two together. I said, fantastic, yay, let's do this. Hired the art centre, got lots of traders, did this wonderful show, and actually made some money. We just couldn't believe it. We had then put £2,000 each, I don't know what the equivalent is in dollars, but £2,000 each, into a pot, and we asked a local mill to spin our own yarn for us. So we thought, let's now do this. If we're going to do this, big leap of faith. So we then started doing the big shows. So we went to the big London show, the ones in the UK. So we started selling in our shows. So we were called Ruth and Belinda, and we did that for 6 years. She is, and still is, she's a fundamental Christian. She has a deep relationship to God. And she said to me, I never got to go to church on Sundays. So she said, listen, go and fly and do your own thing. So I then went and did the shows for a few years. And I said to my husband, I wonder whether we can do something fun where we could get people to come and knit, the celebration of knitted textiles. How can we do this? And I had a theatre buddy of mine. I don't know if you've heard of Glastonbury. Yeah, okay. Music festival. So she's a theatre director in her own right. And that's how I know her. But she's also a tech editor for all the major knitting and crochet magazines in the UK. Oh my goodness. I mean, just wow, that's so amazing. So the two of us said, let's run some knitting retreats in a friend of ours' beautiful house. And so we did about 6 events. The house that we stayed at was incredibly quirky and old England, with sheep in the garden. The sofa were propped up with bricks. The windows shook because it was so old. And the woman who actually owned the place, called Fru, who's just amazing, just incredibly posh, terribly posh, okay, just absolutely lovely. And it was all a little bit sort of mad and a little bit crazy and quirky. And again, I said to my hubby, I wonder if we can do it in a way where we're celebrating knitted textiles. We do a paradigm shift about it being luxurious and of quality, and celebrating it as an art and a craft, and getting people together to kind of make and learn techniques together in an environment that's knit themed, but in a kind of contemporary modern way. And so as my hubby would always say to me, show me the figures. Does it work? Yes, how wonderful to have this concept, but actually is it a business? And looked for a building that was near the sea, 1, that was near a train station, 2, and was small enough to have an intimacy. So the constellation of people and the choreography of the people in the room, that there wouldn't be faction groups, that we could have one conversation together. And I've worked in theatre, I know that once you get 10 people, more than 10 people, if you get 11 or 12, you have 2 6s. So I knew I could only have 8, 9 people max. So then I was looking for property, and this is the only house that came up. So we came to see it, and as they say, the rest is history. So the kind of timeline of how I got to do this is from actually being a designer in my own right and having my own yarn spun for me, and now it's a celebration of the technique of and I will say it's been 99.9%. We've had one man, but that was just as a kind of a day guest kind of thing. So women coming together, and it has been primarily women coming together and talk about, it's been more than just about the knitting, because it's even though the knitting and the crafting and the making and the techniques are so important, and the food is incredible because my chef is amazing, and the fact that I'm just going to show you that we look out to the ocean. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, no, you can't. Okay, so we look out to the sea. You can't see that. So we look out to the sea, which is just incredible because it's incredibly peaceful. Is that it's about those connections that we've made with women, about the stories we've heard, the stories of joy, oppression, um, love, hate, children, not having children, animals, travel, persecution. I mean, you name it. We've had it here in this room, from people weeping in our arms who've never told the story before, to oh my goodness, my daughter's just had IVF and we're going to have twins and we're thrilled. I mean, everything. We've had police people, we've had detectives, we've had care workers, we've had doctors and consultants, and I mean, every walk of life and every religion, pretty much, we've had
Right.
here, and women coming together to share their love of making beautiful things.
You seem very improvisational, but I feel like running a business, it's like very methodical kind of thing. Do you find, like, how methodical are you? Because I see you booked into 2024 already, like all the guests are lined up, all the schedule is done. Talk to me about like the impromptu element of it versus planning.
Okay, there's a lot of planning. There's as you probably know, being a businesswoman yourself, there are hours and hours and hours and hours of planning. The back end work, the making sure, and I know this sounds very mundane, but the laundry is coming back on time, that towels are the right towels, that the tutors are booked into the right hotels, that I've paid all those tutors the right amount, that the invoices coming in. So the back end that people don't see, the da, in a way, the fun starts when the doors open and I can go, whoa, we now begin, because I've done the work. When they walk in, it's, for me, that's the joy. When people walk in for the first time, I can go, woof, this is easy. This is the easy bit. The hard bit is the working on the spreadsheet and making sure it's all updated and that there isn't a clash and people have paid their deposits. And I mean, the minutiae, the small bit that makes the business function, is still up to me. And so that's why I only do 25 a year, because otherwise it will just be too much, because I need some time just to do the admin work. Because a lot of people say, when you're not doing this, what do you do? And I and I laugh. So, the rest that you don't see. So that part, actually, that they're not mutually exclusive. I would not have the da and the joy and the conversations and the technique learning and the wonderful tutors, and if I didn't do the back end stuff. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. Takes a lot of time, and also designing as well,
Right.
which I'm doing. Yeah.
I mean, when do you find time to design?
I don't know. Well, I do on the needles, always. In my dream time, I don't know. I do. So the downtime, when I'm just watching my rubbishy Netflix and I can just sit and knit and knit. And I also have a team of 5 knitters who I could not do what I do without them. Debbie Smith, Elaine Orchard, Brenda Watson, Rosemary Britton. These are people who are very dear to me, who I can send my designs to and can translate them. Sometimes I knit the whole thing. Sometimes I will knit just a section, and then I will pass it to them, and I'll say, knit the next section and pass it to me, and I'll work out the maths. So some things are through and a kind of organic process that we're working in a team together. Other things are very much, they are mine wholly and I've done it. So yeah, lots, always thinking of new ideas. It's interesting, we had someone here, which you probably know, called Erica Knight. Do you know Erica Knight? Okay, fab. And we were talking about, for years and years, and I think this is me, and I put my hand up, but at some level I've been designing because, I'm going to say because I'm making a living, but because I need to have it sellable. I need to have things that people will buy because they need to be wearable. And more I'm actually thinking, that for my own design life is that I'd like to design things perhaps that are slightly more picking up from the kind of my mother's crazy, wonderful, great, unusual conceptual pieces. But actually I like designing stuff as well, things that are not just what can I say things that are
Everyday
slightly
wear.
more Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, wearable, yes, absolutely. Not so out there that you go, oh my gosh, I'm never going to wear that. But some things that are slightly more, yeah, maybe. I mean, still like the idea of no color, like the idea of when I say color, I mean more neutral shades. Okay,
Well, let's
not.
talk about that. So you religiously basically do everything in black and white. Tell me the
Well,
reason for that.
it started. Now, how did that start? It started when I was doing my master's in as I said, my master's I did it in device theatre. So I was looking at, and my thesis was in the representation of women's bodies on stage. It was called Women's Bodies as Revolution. It was about being a fat woman. What does that mean in our society? Being a mother, being a jazz singer. So I've sung jazz for years, and how people perceive me. So I morphed Pamela Anderson's face onto me. And so it was a really kind of unusual kind of comedic piece. And I was just doing a huge amount of research about feminist literature, feminist ideology, critical theory. And I came across Judith Butler, Lucille Rigore, Bell Hook. Okay, such a Black American radical feminist. And she said that as a Black woman, she loved the identity of actually wearing black clothes. The idea of getting up in the morning. She said it's also really easy because you have a kind of palette that you can just wear. And I thought, gosh, that's interesting. My mother is Anglo-Indian, so my mother is 3/4 Indian. I was born in Africa. My father's a white man, English, British. And I just thought, playing around with what do I do if I just kept it neutral? I kept going to and wearing neutral on stage. And I think it just transpired that I love the idea that actually, what do I needed to wear color? Did I needed to put the purples and the blues and the turquoise and the pinks and blah, blah, blah. And I just took that all out. So none of in fact, I can't remember the last time I wore anything with color. When I say color, of course, I am wearing gray and I'm wearing black and beiges and brown. Yeah. So it's kind of, now I've got a bit OCD, or when I've got OCD about it. So it's yeah, it was about researching that and looking into it, and I felt it very inspiring. A kind of window into my soul about this woman who was so inspiring and delightful in what she was saying about her own color and what that meant to her.
I
And
find
the
that
idea
actually like very interesting because I feel like you have the most colorful soul on the planet.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that it is interesting, and people do. I sometimes put things on. I want to show you this, which is just something. And I put it on the other day, and someone said to me, "Hey, Belinda, you should wear color." Okay, so I have, this is my giraffe scarf. Okay, so this is just a tube. It's just a really long tube. And so this is really unlike me when I'm going to show you. So this is just a big tube here. And so I put this on, and everyone said, "Oh my gosh, it looks so cool. You should wear it."
Well, let me ask you about that. Do you feel like growing up in such a like mixed household and growing up in Uganda, like in Africa, do you feel like it influenced you as a person?
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. And it interesting that my mother, who her whole family is a Brown family. I'm going to stay with that. It's a Brown family, and yet she denied her heritage for many years, and pretended she was, we didn't know where she came from, so she pretended she was Greek or some other country. She used to pretend that she didn't, where she was coming from, India, because it was a place of, somehow she didn't want to be thought of as lesser. So she lied about her age and she lied about where she came from, so people would perceive her in a different way. So I grew up, always that in the back of my head, thinking, oh my gosh, should I not speak about it? We all thought it was incredibly exotic and we wanted to tell everybody. I know that sounds crazy, but for us, it was like, oh my gosh, how wonderful. This kind of mixed heritage, and the rickshaws and the stories of the monkeys that she used to have as a child. And so yeah, and so I mean, I think it has informed the way I act with people, because I think it's about how we relate to other people of different color and different ways of being, that I'm going to say that we're all the same, which sounds crazy, but there's something for me that was started off on the premise that there wasn't anyone better or lesser than us. We are all one person, one nation, one world. And we have to treat everyone. And I always say to my children, with utter kindness and charm. My mother used to always say, be charming. I didn't send my kids to school. So it was another story for another day, but I didn't send my kids to school because of that right for them to choose their own guiding principle, their love and their nurture and their knowledge and non-knowledge. It was so important for me to, and I suppose that comes from my background, from very liberal parents who let us stay up late and eat lots of sweets, and a completely different world, I think, than a lot of people. In this room, I listen to lots of stories and people always go, oh my gosh, that's a completely different world than me. And I think that's probably I have. So I do think it's informed that the fact that my father was also incredibly academic, bright, smart man. So we grew up with him kind of talking about Plato's Republic and Milton's Paradise Lost and Aristotle's Poetics and the metaphysical poet John Donne. And I mean, I remember my father talking about this and listening to jazz loudly. So my life has not been going to primary school and being a good girl and going to doing I've gone through a different kind of world than a lot of people, I think.
Do you believe that like every person has their own path and finding their path? And do you think you already found that path, or are you still searching for it?
Oh my gosh, what a huge question. Yes, I do think everyone has their own path, but I do also think that we can go on in labyrinthy ways and twist and turns. And maybe, who would have thought, Irina, that how many years, 15 years ago, I would be sitting here talking to people about knitting when I was standing on stage talking to poets about, I don't know, whatever, burlesque dancers. I mean, it's just the difference, the polarity is just huge. So I don't know. I don't know what the evolution of this. I'm writing a book at the moment in celebration of my mother, number one, and number two, in respect of the stories that I've heard here. I mean, some dark and some, as I said, some joyous. And also putting knitting patterns that go with the stories. So for me, I mean, the idea of going back to writing again appeals to me. The designing slightly more out there stuff. In my previous life, I was a potter. So I would like, so my idea of how I connect pottery to knitting. And the other thing is doing a PhD. Sometimes part of me thinks whether I'd like to go and explore women's identity within knitted fabric, which sounds really kind of weird and kind of a bit, but something about women's lives and knitting and how they can mold together.
You know what I absolutely love about you, and you're not the first person I'm telling it to, but like you are definitely representative of this group. There are a lot of people who could think like everything in their life has to, like, career-wise, plans-wise, has to happen in like the first half of their life. When they're 20s, 30s, this is when you build your career. This is when everything happening, and then you just slowly sort of wilter. And when I see people like you who not only started new business in their second half of the life, right, but have so many plans and so many ambitions and enjoy the life, like, to me this is the most beautiful thing ever.
Oh, and you do you have?
I mean, I started this YouTube channel 2 years ago. Who would have thought?
I know, absolutely. But do you see an evolution for you? Do you see something in the next?
Honestly, it's been such a whirlwind that I have no idea what's going to happen, where I'm going with this, but I'm enjoying every moment.
Okay. I mean, I can see you being an interviewer for a TV show. Perhaps. Like a national TV show. Get crafters and you talk to them.
Yeah, if anybody on TV watching, I'm available.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I just think that would be fantastic. Why not you? I mean, you're great. So that's what I always think.
Well, let me ask you about the instructors you invite to your hotel, because I know a lot of the instructors that you invite. Some of them were stars of the Fiberchats, actually. how do you decide who to ask? Is it difficult to get instructors? And the last part of that question, do you have somebody that you dream about having at your hotel that you haven't yet got?
um, I suppose when I first started this, I thought that people would want to come here because of learning a technique, and the who taught it didn't really matter. Within reason, it was more that I needed a skilled tutor. And I think that as the evolution of this has grown and more people are coming back, and I would say maybe 65% of the people who are my guests are returning, that I'm a bit like Madonna, I need to keep reinventing myself. It is about bringing in new ways of thinking, new designers, and having designers who are thought of and respected within the kind of fibre industry. And so I've been putting out feelers and asking people, and because I have done shows, I've met quite a few of them, and so I meet them because I've done shows. And so I have contacted these people and said, would you like to come? I get a lot of people contacting me who I don't know from all over the place in the UK and say, can I come and teach? And I say, can you please show me what you've done? And they send me a link to their Ravelry page or their TikTok, and they've got 12 designs and they've taught one workshop. And I know that I sometimes should have a leap of faith and say, yeah, come. We have had one tutor who came who was appalling. I won't say who, and I will not have them back again. They were disrespectful. They didn't have any samples. They took the tools away from the people who were doing the workshop. So no one could continue. I mean, you name it. I mean, they just, okay. So I have to be really clear about who comes into this space, because it is a safe space for people. So in the sense, I've been asking people to come. Some people have contacted me, and we've just had something called Zoe Potrak, who's a new crochet designer, and she designs for crochet magazines. I mean, she was just phenomenal and so inspiring, and here for 2 days, and young, and not that she matter, but yeah, funky and cool, and everybody loved her, and she's coming back again this year and twice next year, so we're thrilled. So it's lovely when I didn't know her. As she walked through the door, I've never met her before. It was like meeting you. I've literally just spoken to her. And she was everything that I thought she would be. She absolutely was phenomenal. Brilliant project. Everything was given out, the workshop note, everything you can imagine, perfect. In answer, so that's how I'm getting some tutors. So Erica Knight, Jeanette Sloan, Anakin Alice, Soraya Hussain, Zoe, yeah, so these are some of the big names. Joe Smith, an amazing color, fantastical of spanner works. I used to have somebody called, what was her name? Claire Crompton, who wrote the Knitting Bible. She is no longer going to be part of it. Someone called Alison Crowther-Smith, no longer. So sometimes I'm now trying to find more interesting people to come. And as always, I ask the question to the people in the room, what would you like me to do? And a lot of the time they say the same, which is lovely, but I want more. the same, do the same. In answer to your question, who would I like? I haven't asked Olga Jazzy. I mean, of course, she, I think, as one of the designers, I think is the most innovative in her construction. I think beautiful stuff. I have talked to Stephen West. He's always such an amazing, inspiring, wow, powerhouse within the knitting industry, and not only charming and innovative, and very personable, and it's so wonderful. I mean, people often say to me, oh my gosh, these people make so much money, and I go, I'm flabbergasted. And I say, isn't it wonderful? Why can't we all be multi-millionaires? If we were all multi-millionaires in the knitting industry or the textile industry, I mean, it would be fantastic. It would be fantastic. So yeah, bravo for doing what he does so brilliantly, having a back-end support network that is obviously, I mean, he's, yeah, brilliant marketer, businessman. So in answer to your question, I asked him to come, and I talked to one of his team, and they said at the moment he's not traveling, just because he can do lots of Zoom events. So he's said, if you tell me weekends next year you want me, I'll do a Zoom chat. We can do something that fits into one of your workshops. So that's great. So tick. So that would be fantastic. Olga Jazzy, I will contact her. And so there, I mean, there are other people that I'm trying to think of, but yeah, there are, you know how you go through and you think, oh my gosh, there's so many. And I suppose it's looking for people who's speaking the language in a different way. Not negating all the brilliant designers out there who are designing beautiful things, but I think that what people are looking for now is some kind of innovation, something that's slightly who will pay. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's not. That sounds. My mother used to say it's rude to talk about money, but it is about that. They have a different value because they are so well known. They can ask for more, and rightly so.
Right.
So then people have to realize that there is a price for that, and people do. People are happy to. There are some people who I've asked who, because they're associated either to Rowan or to yarn companies, that they can't come, which is, I understand. So yeah, the other thing is, of course, do I go worldwide? At the moment, I've kept it very kind of UK based,
Right.
just because of practicalities of people actually coming here. If people came for a whole weekend, would they fly here for wherever it was for 3 days, 4 days, 4 days? I don't know. I mean, we have guests who fly. We had someone who'd booked in from Boston, and she came for a spinning workshop weekend, and she said she was training to be a lawyer. Great. She's 29 and said, hey, I'm coming, and learned to spin 4 days. And she said, I'm staying just London, go to Heathrow. And she literally came for 4 days from Boston.
Right.
We have another guest who comes from Malaga in Spain, and it's quicker for her to come here than it is for people who live in Scotland or in the north of England. I mean, it's one flight. So people can come. I've just got to now think, okay, I'm looking 2025, Verena, I'm looking that do I now start thinking of people outside of the UK? But there's so many beautiful people in the UK too. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you about your husband. So he's been your support team with all this. Do you think he regrets ever getting into this conversation of knitting hotel?
No, not at all, not at all. My husband has his own company. He's a software developer, so he's been fab, in the sense of being one of those late night chats of, you know, do you think, or should I? So he's very grounding. So if you think of me, divide me into an eighth, and that's him. He's quiet and reserved, different kind of person. Different. You don't. I mean, he literally just will pop his head in and say hello, and then you never see him for the weekend. They occasionally will see him carrying a bowl of soup as he pops into his office, but on the whole, he's not around. It's not his space. Yeah, so supporting me doing this. I mean, yeah, as always, there's always a back end kind of person who as I said, those late night chats of, oh gosh, can I have that person back again because I find her offensive? And Alan, my husband, would say, tell her to leave now. And I'll say, no, I can't, you know. So yeah, and he's we sing off the same kind of page, as it were, in what we think and believe, so which is great. Yeah.
Well, when people come, right, when they arrive to your hotel, like, what's your favorite moment of that entire weekend? Like, what do you love the most?
So meeting new people, I always find that just wonderful. And knowing that when I ask people over the weekend, when I find about their knitting journey, I find that inspiring, where they've come from, where they're going, what they want to know, the designers, the making, where they're getting their yarn from. That's exciting. And also I'm going to say the eureka moments, when we're doing something and someone said, I got it, or I really can't get brioche, or I really can't get, or I've dropped a stitch, or I'm doing lace and I'm beading and I can't do it, and I can't knit continentally, and like, please help me with my hands, and blah. And they got it. I go, I've got it. And it's that sense of, I'm now going to do it always this way. And it's just, those are really special moments. And taking away from the kind of technique knitting stuff, that I feel very privileged and humbled at the stories that I hear that people share in this space, of women, of women. Let's just leave it like that. Of women's stories. And it is, yeah, it is incredible that they just wonderful stories that and sometimes we laugh, and so much that my black eyeliner drips down my face, you know, because I get, because they tell me such crazy things. And yeah, it's good, it's that, those are the moments that I love, the technical wizardry, that that I think is so fantastic, and the eureka moments and the stories.
Well, if you think of yourself before you started this hotel and now, like, how did you change through this journey?
What, let me think, how have I changed? I think that I know this sounds silly, but I trust myself more. When I first started, I think I was, oh my gosh, can I do this? Or can I ask that? Is that appropriate? Can I give them this? Will they understand? And actually now I've thought, sod it. Yes, I can. I can say this, and I can ask, and I can show. So that sense of trusting myself, even though I've been very brave. I mean, I've stood on stage naked. I tell you, I'm brave. I tell you, but it's not that. It's about believing that it's okay to say those things and people not judging me. That saying, I don't think that's really nice. I don't like that. I don't think that works. That doesn't. Or yeah. I mean, even on a very practical thing that people would say, hold up a color and say, I love this. And I'll say, it washes you out a little. Yeah, those things, because I think that I would want someone to tell me those kind of, when I would in the past have said, oh yeah, that's lovely. Those kind of things.
I took a few classes in knitting, and what I find that sometimes it can be difficult for instructor to explain in a way that like everybody will understand. So because you have different levels of experience among knitters, some people get something that even they never done that technique before, but they get it immediately and it's like very easy for them. And other people need multiple ways of explanation and multiple times being explained, and they still might not get it. How do you deal with that kind of thing? Like, is it possible to teach everybody knitting?
Yeah, it is. So everybody who has come here, no, I take that back. I was going to say everybody who's come here can knit, but some people have come here who can either crochet or knit, and then have wanted to learn crochet or knitting for those people. And we've taught them how to knit and crochet. And I think because, because they're here for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, enough time,
right,
that they get it because of the length of time. And remember, we are with each other from 9 o'clock in the morning till we can no longer keep our eyes open, and the gin and tonic is over. Yeah. So you think it's a long time we're together. And someone said to me, it's immersive when they come here. This is not like a hotel. Nobody goes to their room. We are literally with each other. I tie you to my string, tie you to me. You cannot leave me. We don't have televisions in the bedrooms. So it's a very different place. You're literally sleeping, showering, and then you're with all together. So it's, yeah, very immersive. In answer to your question about how we teach, is that when we have tutors, I make sure that the tutors have a track record of being of teachers and facilitators, as well as just designers, because I think that you can get some very good designers who don't know how to impart that knowledge to a group of people. Remember, we've only got 8 or 9 people, so it's not too incongruous and too complicated. But I have noticed that tutors there's some people who obviously, I mean, I'm just saying ferrule and steeking. You're starting to do ferrule in the round, 2-color candid. Some people have got it immediately, and other people are really struggling. I can't do it, I can't. And so I've noticed the tutors will then sit in on the sofa between 2 and say, right, okay, we've got it. Have you got it? Yeah. And they will then go around the room very carefully, sitting on the floor next to them one by one, showing them. And people are very generous when they're here, that someone will say, listen, I've got it, I'll come and show you. Yeah. So it's that sense of, we're all in this together. Yeah, we're all going to get there, and it's go, and the amount of clapping we have in here, I tell you, when people go, yay, you know, and people show their stuff that they've done. So I don't think anyone's left here not knowing a technique that they wanted to learn. Obviously at different levels of expertise and skill, but I think that everyone's learned something they wanted to learn. And some people here just learn the technique and say, I've learned it, I'm unraveling it, thanks, I'm now doing my own thing. Yeah. And there is also, I say very clearly that if you don't like it, it's not compulsory. You're adult women here, just say, I don't really like it, put it down, do what you want to do. It's your time, it's your space, do what you love in your hands, it's fine. And we've had a few people who said, I'm not getting this, I'm not going to invest any time. It's cool, it's fine.
Right.
So that's really nice. Yeah.
Oh, my dream would be to be your guest one day.
Oh, come.
It would be like absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
Well, I want to thank you for being my guest today. I absolutely enjoyed every moment of our conversation, and I'm so
Thank you.
glad we made it happen.
Look, can you see the Knitting Hotel? Don't talk to me, I'm counting.
Cheers, and thank you so very much, Belinda, for being my guest today. Loved it.
Lots of love to you. Thank you, Irina. Bye.